Hello everybody and welcome back to Modern Dentures. In this video we're going to be fitting a part metal framework denture. It shouldn't take too long and I'll just explain roughly what I do and the way that I adjust it and the clasps and things like that. I usually start with the lower denture. The way that I decide is whether it's going to be easier to take the lower denture in and out with the upper denture in situ already or vice versa. And I usually find because the lower denture is smaller, it's better just to get it in, it's kind of out of the way, and then you can take the top one in and out as you're fitting that without the lower one getting in the way. Sometimes they both do, you know, if the patient's got a large denture and a small mouth, then I'll fit one, I'll take it out, then I'll fit the other one before we then put both of them in. And the first thing that I do before I do anything is I check the denture for any sharp edges or like little polyps that might be missed by the technicians. So just running my finger over, you can usually feel if there are any sharp bits even with your gloves on. Some people use cotton wool and they just rub it over, because if there are any of their little polyps on there, it'll just catch on the wool and show it up for where it is. I tend not to do that. I used to do it, I tend not to do it anymore because I can usually just feel it with my gloves. In fact, I can see it. So, but it's good practice, you know, if you're just learning how to do dentures, fit dentures is a good little trick to get you used to where they're more likely to be. And it generally is always on the fitting surface. A lot of the textbooks will tell dental technicians not to trim the fitting surface of the denture, which is not a good idea because it can be really rough sometimes, so it does need an adjustment. Just to take those little sharp edges off, and as I say, those little polyps in those sort of situations will get missed by the technician if they're, you know, if they're not trimming the fitting surface. And the other thing is they're also told not to polish the fitting surface, and again this is something that we don't do. We always polish the fitting surface. We don't polish it the same way as that we do the rest of the denture. We polish it ever so lightly, not to remove any of the plastic or to even put a shine on it, but it is just to remove that sort of roughness, because especially if you've got a denture that's moving slightly, that rough fitting surface will usually result in some damage to the soft tissues or irritation or even ulcers in some cases. The next thing that I do when I'm checking the denture is any overextensions, any areas that are likely to cause an issue, and this is a good one. So as you can see on this denture, we've got a little bit of an undercut on here, on this back edge. So I would say it's slightly overextended here. So we've got the molar ridge there, which is like a little indentation, which creates a little bit of an undercut, but not too much. But it's this extension here that I'm worrying about. That's probably pushing down into the floor of the mouth, and this will probably cause some sort of rub-in, maybe even an ulcer on there. But the worst bit I think for this one is this little bulbous bit here, which is raised up. I don't know if you can see that too well on the camera, but it's going over this area here, which is you know, which is a little bit of a protuberance, and it tends to be a bony area, this bit. And if this is overextended, with the denture moving, this bit here can cause a problem. So I would usually reduce this down. So you can take a little bit off here, but even so, you're then going to have some of the floor of the mouth tissue rubbing on this. So when the tongue's extended or lifted, it can impinge on the connective tissue on this area. So I like to reduce this down a little bit. In my mind, that's a little bit overextended, and reducing it down isn't going to harm it. However, if you take too much off, then as the tongue sits here, the patient's going to then feel it on the edge of their tongue. And especially if you don't polish it and you've taken this area off and it's a little bit rough on this surface, then it is going to irritate the tongue as well. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. Generally I'd take a little bit off to see how it goes. Then if it does rub, just take a little bit more off. This side looks fine. There is a little bit of an overextension possibly there. I'm not too sure, it's difficult to tell. So This one I'll actually leave, and if it becomes a problem I'll reduce it down. We've got too much acrylic coming up around the clasps. Generally I would have a little bit more free there, just because of where the Freenans are, and when they're distended they can then pinch in those areas. So I'll probably just take a little bit off here and here, and then we'll check it in the mouth. Again, I've already tried these chromes in before the acrylic was done, checking that the metalwork's going in, so I know the metalwork's going in perfectly. So if the denture's not fitting today, it's not going to be the metal framework, it's going to be the acrylic that's been added, because obviously at the previous stage all that acrylic would have been wax, and if it was in the way it would have just got pushed out of the way basically, or distorted. This is not ideal doing it here. I'm doing it here because this is where the camera is, but quite often I'll do it over by the sink, so we're containing this mess a little bit better. And we're using nice smooth motions and always moving forward. You can go backwards, but as you see it leaves a rough edge on there. So as long as you always finish on the back stroke, it'll be nice and smooth. So I've taken it down a little bit, and I'm also just going to take probably 1/4 millimetre off of that inside edge, just to make sure that it's not going to catch on those undercuts. As I say, it's better to err on caution. I'll just take a little bit off at a time, because we can always come back and take a little bit more if we need to. And then this area, I'm just going to take these little bits off. Just where the Freenans are. With these sort of cast clasps, it's okay if the burr hits them a little bit. If you've got the wrought wire clasps, which I don't advise using, but if you have got them, I tend to use them only on like temporary dentures. If you have got them and you nick a little bit, you're causing yourself big problems, because then when you go to adjust the clasp, you've created a thin part of the wrought wire, and then it will snap or it will bend in that area where you don't want it to. But you don't get that with the cast ones, so it's okay if you just touch them a little bit. The final thing that I do before fitting is just look at the insertion angles to see if there's anything obvious that's going to stop the denture going in. Sometimes we might have like a little bit of acrylic left on these contact points. So the insertion of the denture, the angle of the insertion has already been set by the metal framework, because we've surveyed the model, and so we've already got that angle of insertion set. So if any of this acrylic goes into the undercuts around the teeth, then that's what's going to be getting in the way. So we might have to just take a little bit. It looks pretty good. If we have to do any, might be a little bit here, possibly a little bit here, but I'll try it first. Head back for me. Relax your lips for me. That's gone in really well. Head back for me. So that's gone in really well. And you can see, because it's close fitting all around the back of the lingual area of those teeth. So this tends to be the bit that I'm checking. And the clasps are sitting around the back of these teeth lovely, and it's not pinching on the gums anywhere. And we're well away from the frenum on that clasp that side. And there's a couple that side. But I think there's enough room there, so it should be okay. So this is the top denture, and it's a little bit of a different design than I'd normally do. As you can see, we've got this labial clasp coming round, which circumvents the upper left 3 there, and then clips onto the back of that upper left 3. And also this back clasp, as you can see, we go all the way round, reciprocate round this upper right 7, and then we'll clasp in onto the 6. The reason we're doing that is because, well, there's several reasons why I do it. It could be that this back tooth here might be a little bit mobile, so we don't want to actually clasp onto it. And when we reciprocate around it, can actually help to hold that mobile tooth in place. And then we clasp on to the 6 here in front of it. And as you can see, it's one of my little double back clasps that I do. And this is the retentive bit, just literally from sort of here to here is the retentive bit. So if I'm adjusting this clasp, I don't adjust it here, I adjust it here on this little bit just to tighten it. And then we've got something similar on this back bit. We didn't have great retention, so we go all the way around and then back into that last third of the retentive part of the tooth. And again, the reason we're doing this is because the longer this clasp is, the more flex we've got in it and the better retention that we can have. We can tighten it and still have enough flex there in order to take this in and out. Whereas this is completely different. You see how much we've got no room on this clasp to adjust it at all. So it's complete opposite to that tooth. However, sometimes the clasps that I put on, they are literally just reciprocal. So they're just holding the denture. They're not designed to clasp onto the tooth. They're just designed to help hold the tooth and stop some of the movement. However, it is designed in such a way that we can, in fact, use this clasp as retention on this tooth. If we do need it, what we do is we remove all this plastic around it. So then this tooth essentially becomes like a gum-fitted tooth with no flange, which doesn't matter because it's a back tooth, you don't see it anyway. But then we've got the full length of this arm up to here so that we can then adjust it and use it as clasping if we need to. I don't think we need to because we've got 3 other clasps around the denture that's going to hold it in. Unless that clasp is a little bit tight, and then we might need to do it just to relieve it a little bit. How does that feel? Is that okay? Is that digging in anywhere? Let's have a little look. Just sort of tightened up a little bit, did it? So close together for me. Does it feel like your teeth are touching both sides? Or is it hitting anywhere in particular?
I'm more aware of front.
The front's hitting.
Catching up there before the 2 sides are.
Right, okay. So if you just click on there and sort of grind your teeth side to side where you can feel where that's hitting at the front. So yeah, it looks like that lower central tooth. So I've used a blue paper. I use troll foil. I really like it because it's nice and easy. The way you whip it off, you've got something to hold on to while you're using it. So it's not as messy as those other ones that just come on the strip. You can just see the little mark there where it's hitting on the bite. Now I'll do this several times just by taking a little tiny bit off. Every time, pop it back in, mark it again, and keep doing it until we're not seeing that mark. It's a good idea to do it across the occlusion, just because sometimes a patient might say it's hitting in an area, but in fact it's not, it's hitting in a completely different area. So same again then, if you sort of bite together for me, grind on that front bit where you could feel it before, and open. So I've not engaged the clasps at the moment, so it's still touching a little bit, but as you can see we've got a few more contact points. We've even got a little bit there and a little bit there, and it will be the contact points on the top as well. And the patient's already indicated that it feels better already, but I'll just take those little bits out. I'm not going to take it off the metal today, but if it becomes a problem I may come back on the aftercare appointment and just take the metal down a little bit. Metal's a little bit more difficult to adjust, a little bit more time consuming, takes a little bit of a different approach to the polishing as well, which we're going to do in a minute. So I don't normally have my tissues here, by the way, as we run out just as we started filming. So polishing a denture, I see a lot of dentures come in, have been made by other people, and they've been adjusted. Sometimes they're really rough, and I think a lot of it is the drills that are used, the dentist drills. they're just not up to the job of trimming a denture properly, so they vibrate a lot and they cause a real rough surface. But the other thing is they're not polished at all. Sometimes if I do a lot of adjustments, I'll go and use the benchtop lathe to polish and then buff the denture. If it's just some little spotting areas like I've done here or on the edge of the lower, I'll just use exactly what you use for polishing the teeth in the mouth with your little polishing pot. So I'm sure I don't need to explain to anyone how they work. But they do actually work quite well. They won't put a real high luster on it, but they'll take the roughness off so that it's nice and smooth. And what I have to be careful with my motor, which is doing 50,000 revs a minute, is a little bit too fast, so I have to remember to turn it down, because you want a real slow speed on it, and you also want a lot of polish on it. Remember, it's the polish that's polishing, not the actual rubber cup itself. The rubber cup is just the thing that moves the polish about. So if you haven't got any polish, as soon as you put it on, it's coming off, so you have to keep reapplying it. And just go over nice and slowly in that area, and then that will make it nice and smooth. And the reason that's important as well, it's not just for the comfort of the patient in terms of what they can feel with their tongue or the rest of their mouth, it's also to stop the plaque building up on the surface of the acrylic, because if you've got a rough area, the plaque will, it's got a key to purchase onto, and it'll build up and build up, and then the plaque stains, and then that's what makes the dentures look dirty. And you see this quite a lot as well for patients using toothpaste to clean their dentures, because it's got a lot of abrasive in it. It will make the surface of the acrylic rough, and then it will build up. So if you ever get that, send it to the lab to get them polished up, and then just advise the patients to use a denture cream and not toothpaste. So the other thing at this stage, if the denture is fitting fairly tightly and it's quite stable, I'll just leave the clasps as they are without adjusting them. But if the denture's visibly loose and it's just falling out, then I'll adjust the clasps at this stage. I do like to keep them passive if I can, just because it gives the patient a week to get used to wearing the denture, taking it in and out. And then when they come back for the aftercare, if it's a little bit loose, then I'll just tweak the clasps at that point and just tighten it up. And I always make sure that the patient can remove and insert the denture before they leave as well. And everybody's different, so some patients will need them a lot looser than others, depending on their dexterity and things like that. And so I'm just adjusting this lower denture in those areas that I tweaked before. And remember, we're going to have the aftercare next week, usually in a week's time. You can do the aftercare appointment within 3 days if you want to, or sorry, after 3 days. Sometimes I do it next day, but if you do that, you might find that you're then doing another adjustment after that. I usually find that once the patient's worn the denture for a couple of days, then any sore spots that are going to show up will be showing up by then. The reason I do a week is because it's just easier for me, because I work 2 or 3 days a week. You can't always do the adjustment on that, you can't always do the adjustment within those 3 days, so you just book it at a week. But you always advise the patient that, if it rubs, don't persevere with it, take it out, go back to your old dentures, but put them in the day before they're due to see you, so you can see where they're rubbing. Actually, what I'll do, I'll get you to pop those in. That's all right, just to make sure you can do that okay. Gone in all right? Yeah. And then that one. Now, with new dentures, sometimes they do feel like they're a little bit bulky. Sometimes they feel like they're a little bit of a mouthful to start with, but once you've had them in for a little while, you'll get used to them. Obviously, the top one that you're used to is very small, isn't it? It's like a little little tiny bit of a plate, whereas this is going to be a bit more substantial, but you'll get used to it quite quickly, usually within a couple of weeks. And it's the same with speech as well, so you might find that your S's, you're hissing a little bit to start with, but that usually goes away after between a week, 2 weeks for most people. What we're usually looking out for is if you're getting like a whistle, so if you're talking, you get that sort of sound coming out and certain words, just let me know and what words they are, because I can usually adjust the denture.
Okay.
Don't think we're going to have a problem with this. It's usually the full dentures that we get it where we got a thick palate, so for you this is a nice small thin palate, so it shouldn't be a problem. All right, do you want to just take them out for me just to make sure you can get them out okay? Generally you get hold of them.
Can't do it the way I used to do it.
No, you can't just flick them out.
Muscle movement, it popped out.
So you try, that's it, you get them by the clasps and you wiggle it a little bit, but you want to get both sides up at the same time. That's it,
Okay.
perfect. And then same with the lower one, the upper one, sorry. There we go,
Okay.
perfect. And if you want to pop them back in for me. So as I was saying, try them for a week, see how you get on with them. If you feel like it is a little bit loose on any of the clasps, I'll just tweak it. And sometimes when they go in, they feel like they're in and you bite together and there just might be a little bit of movement or a little click or something as they finally click in. And if you want to just look at the camera and give us a big smile on there. That clasp that we put, where is it, beside, we don't really show it. It's not showing on the gum because you've got quite a low level lip line. Yeah, for people that are smiling and they show a lot of gum, I certainly wouldn't use a clasp like that at the front, but for you, that's perfect, and it helps hold the denture in. So that's good. What you might find is that you get a little bit of food caught in around the clasps. That's normal. It's not something that we can avoid, unfortunately. Well, it doesn't happen for everyone or every class, but you might find that there's a bit, and after you've eaten you just have to take it out and give it a rinse. We're all done for today. Obviously we're going to give you back your old dentures. We'll put them in a box and put them in the bag for you, so keep hold of them, because if I need to do any work on this, we've always got a spare set. That's a good point. That's a good point. You have to change both of them. You can't interchange the dentures, so they have to be worn as a set, okay, because the bite will be different on them. If the dentures are sore and they're rubbing on the gum, don't persevere with it. Just take them out, because what will happen, it'll swell up, and where it swells up and you keep the denture in, it'll just make the whole thing worse and it will get really sore. If you take them out for a couple of days and then you put them in the day before you're due to see me, you might put them in and think, oh, they're actually all right now, and quite often they are, because the tissue will sort of stiffen up, toughen up like calluses on your hands and support it. I will still like to see it to do the adjustment, because sometimes that area can flare up again. All right, so always let me know. The other thing is, you might, with metal frameworks, sometimes you get achy teeth. Your teeth become a little bit sensitive. So for that, what I'd recommend is that you sleep with them for the next couple of weeks. Well, at least 4 weeks. Because what it is the teeth might be shifting a little bit, it might put a little bit of pressure. And it's a little bit like when, when we fit braces and things, they put pressure on the teeth. If the teeth move slightly, and then keeping everything in the same place, then the teeth will just reset themselves in that position. We're talking like microns. We're not visible. You won't see the teeth moving, but it's just enough just to put a little bit of pressure on it, and then it'll sort of set itself. If you keep taking them out every night, the teeth are just going to keep moving back into that same position, and they'll stay achy for a long time. They will sort itself out eventually, but it takes a lot longer, so it's better to sleep with them in. After the 4 weeks, if you prefer to sleep with them in, you can sleep with them in all the time, but I recommend taking them out an hour a day just to give your gums a sort of rest and let all the dead cells exfoliate. It's better for your health wise, it's better to take them out for at least an hour, just to give your gums a rest. Unless we tell you otherwise. Sometimes if you come in and we notice something in the mouth, we might advise you not to sleep with them in, but until then, that'll be absolutely fine. We've given you some instructions in the box as well. It tells you how to clean them, tells you all the problems, everything that I've just explained to you basically is in there as well. It tells you how to use fixative and all things like that. So it's worth reading through it. And then we'll see you next week.
Okie doke.
All right.
Yeah. Good. I'll go have a sandwich in the car. I haven't eaten since breakfast. I'm starting to feel hungry now.
Get to try your teeth out.
I'm trying out with some straight away.
Oh, just bear in mind, sometimes you might bite your cheek or your tongue a little bit with new dentures.
Yeah.
If it's just occasionally, that's perfectly normal. But if you find you keep biting the same area, just let me know and I can adjust it. Sometimes the cusp is a little bit long or something.
Go through, yes.
Okay, thanks everybody. Hope you found that useful and we will see you in the next one.